I think, like we talked about earlier, that one of the brainchilds of this connection that you and I have in this podcast could very well be a media company.
Yeah.
With what contacts you have and with your know-how with the cloud, I think this could be a monster.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the whole capitalist wire concept, man.
I mean, I'll go on the record here and just make a guess of what could happen or what we could do. You know, maybe this is our only episode. I have no idea, but like if we wanted to do it, and you know, maybe God opened some doors or whatever. I mean, we could literally build a company that we could sell in 2 or 4 years from now, to another company that's in this space, but they're looking for our type of audience, right? And so, you know, they have this system and this audience, but they're looking to like bolt on our audience, or take some of their audience and speak to them through a different megaphone, and we bring that megaphone. Okay. And so that's what a lot of these companies are doing, is they're building themselves up, and as they grow, and as these industries, I'm going to use a word like evolve. As the industries evolve, there becomes a point where there is a consolidation. Yeah. Initially, it's everyone's scattered, and everyone is going to try it, but then there becomes a point where the of diminishing returns, and then most people either drop out, and then the ones that are doing well are the ones that get acquired. And so we're at a very interesting point here with online media, where we could possibly take advantage of that. Yeah.
One of the things that we're going to talk about is the bet, and it is a very gigantic, powerful thing that's going on right now that we both believe is something that is going to need to be won. How do you win the bet? And what exactly is the bet? And we've kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand, but when I say the bet, kind of where am I going with that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the bet is a concept that we've been talking about. One of our friends, Gary, I think kind of led us into this, but like, the bet is an idea that world leaders and world elites, they are hedging a bet. And one thing I've learned after literally being in the room with hundreds of CEOs and seeing whether it was AT&T, Amazon, Facebook, Charter Communications, tons of these big companies, like, you know, I've been in the room with AT&T, Google, and Motorola executives, all in the same room, like, in seeing these strategies. One thing I can tell you is when something is happening on a massive scale, and when you see a lot of unity in messaging, it is not on accident. Never. There is no way all these media companies are saying the same thing. And then it just so happens to be that people on these ground games, like, you know, whatever you want to call these rallies or protests are happening, like all of this just happens to be like aligned in this weird angle. Yeah. That's in fact, if you were to look at the probability, the actual scientific probability, or using like business statistic probability that is by chance, you would be left into like a result of like, this is what they would call like a statistical zero. Like there is actually not, you would be more stupid to think, just to be straight, like you would be more stupid to think that this is by chance than that this is by design. Yeah. And so there are leaders out there, you know, I don't know if we want to get into exactly who they are, or if that even is the point right now, but there are leaders out there who know they have to take out America. They have to take down the idea of America in order for them to take over the world or do whatever the crazy thing that they're trying to do. And so people may hear that and they may go, man, that sounds like some crazy conspiracy. But I can tell you, as a real executive strategist, and I've worked in the political side in executive strategy as well, there is that would be my honest assessment and recommendation, is that there is no possible way that this is happening by chance. All right. This is a design, and they have made a bet. They have made a bet. That
the American people are dumb enough to fall for whatever it is they're selling?
Somewhere in the ethos of the internet, there is a document that says what this bet is. And I would put everything on it, that there is an actual document that we'll never know. It doesn't matter where it is, but the point is, these things are written down, and they are betting on a number of things. And my hunch is there's somewhere between 8 and 12 or 15 things on there that they are saying, we are betting that the American people are willing to exchange this for what we give them. They are willing to sacrifice their constitution for this. They're willing to sacrifice, so they're making these bets.
Their healthcare,
their healthcare, and it's all going to boil down to, if I were to categorize all of these things that they're betting on, that at the end of the day, they're betting on that America in general is so, we have so gullible. Much freedom. We've become so gullible that, and naive really, in that we cannot recognize common sense anymore. That we are willing to give up things that are common sense and say, well, if you give me some of this, I'll kind of make this sounds believable. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really even going to think about it. Why should I even think about it?
Okay, so a man can get pregnant. Cool.
Exactly. Right. Right. I mean, and so people think like an idea like that is like, oh, this is just some random like little group of people. But no, like this is moving you towards delusionalism. It's moving you to a mindset to believe that common sense doesn't really mean anything. In fact, what is common sense? I mean, do we really even need to have common sense?
You don't have to listen.
So, but it's funny, like
for long.
Like it's always the person who talks about gaslighting you that's gaslighting you. So they're literally gaslighting you in that very sentence by saying a statement of truth and then telling you really shouldn't believe in truth. Well, it's like, dude, you just told me a truth.
Right.
Right. You just told me something that to you is common sense and told me not to believe in common sense. That's stupid. And the fact that I do think that like these things can just happen on one-off, but like when you see it happening on such a massive scale and now across the globe, and you think about like, if you were to take this strategy and move it, how would you do it? Well, you would need to leverage fear. You would need to there's only a few vehicles you could actually move a strategy like that with. And when you work with companies like, I mean, man, I sat down with the CFO of AT&T, okay? And this is like a Fortune 10, Fortune 12 company. This guy's one of the smartest financial guys in the world. And I was a part of this program called the High Potential, I think it's called High Potential Executives of AT&T, or the HYPO program as it's known in HR. People know it as the HYPO program. It's basically the top 1% of AT&T contractors or employees. If you're identified as like top 1% leadership, you're in this HYPO program. So I would meet with executives and stuff, and we would go over strategies of the company. And I mean, the craziest thing happens when you get in these meetings. You realize the power that they know they have. For instance, he would say, well, if we want to sell this, we just changed the comp plans of 112,000 people, and we make their comp plan, anchored on this. And guess what? They magically figure it out. They learn it. They sell it. They train on it, right? If we want to change customer service and take customer service and shorten that, right? Shorten the call time. Well, they just incentivize executives differently or leadership differently, and all of a sudden, magically, those numbers move. And then, so the thing that we were going over is like, what is risks, and also what is a cost to do that, right? Like, because those things aren't free. But what I'm realizing here is, man, you're talking about like tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people on these networks, and they can literally like move data around on a spreadsheet and affect 100 million people of what they think. And so I just remember like thinking that like, holy crap, like this is how the world works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so that's just one example of some of those type of meetings I've been in, where these people at that level, they realize the power that they have. And then, but then when I would take that, and then I would think about like for the last decade, all these things where I was just more like working with middle management or mid-level executive teams. Mm-hmm. And then you're thinking about all these initiatives and things that came down. And you're thinking, dude, there was somebody way up there who was driving this, and we had no idea. Not one person of the 99% had any idea that this decision was made like that. And so I feel like that was like like literally like a God moment where I was like being trained on how these things work. And I was like, okay, like, why am I learning this?
Yeah.
But then as I started seeing these things happen in the world, I was realizing like, maybe this is why I learned this stuff.
Right.
It's like, you know, maybe I'm supposed to be a part of that like generation of people or whatever that
drew a line in the sand.
Yeah, drew a line in the sand and say like, how do we beat the bet? You know, because all these companies, what I realized is like they move some things and make a hypothesis and they say, okay, we're going to bet that we can do this. In fact, we're so good at it, we know we can do it. See, that's the thing I learned from this guy at AT&T is it wasn't like we think we can. He was like, oh, dude, this is a done deal. He's like, tell me what you want me to sell. He's like, James, where do you think cloud services are going? Do we need to partner with the best person in this or that or whatever? Or we need to buy a company or we need to buy a services? I'm like, you can make a decision like that? Like you can go out and buy a $40 million company with me just asking you? He's like, yeah. You know, and
what?
And so like when you're at that level, like you just realize like the power that people have, like literally within an ink pen, you know? And yeah, so I just, you know, so coming back to the bet, I think without a doubt, there's like I said, you would have to have your head in the sand and not be siding on the side of true logic and science to think that these things are happening by chance.